Hello all, welcome to the session. Today we are going to discuss about rebate on exports, how it works in a corporate scenario. When it is applicable, it is a scenario, it comes into picture when your input tax credit is more than your output tax. In a normal scenario, your input tax credit will be lower than your output tax, because input tax credit is what we are taking credit on the GST that we have paid on the raw materials or services which we have procured. But output tax is on the selling price. So your material cost plus value addition plus profit will become your selling price. So in a normal scenario, obviously your output tax will be higher than the input tax credit. Now let us see a scenario where input tax credit is greater than your output tax and how this rebate on exports helps us to liquidate the unutilized input tax credit. In the present scenario, India and China, they act as a leading manufacturing hub for most of the multinational companies. These two countries, they have a huge labor force and at the same time they are very cost economical. So most of the multinational companies, they have made their production setup in India and China. When we look at India, like many multinational companies, they have made a setup of their manufacturing hubs in various parts of the countries. These parts, whatever is getting produced by the multinational companies, it is all basically for their global requirements. They have set up their industries here because they will have a economical cost of production parts. That is the main intention to them. Then from here it will be exported to various countries and it will be sold from there. For them, the another advantage is the raw material sourcing will happen within India, and if you look at their sales, majority of their sales will be for their global requirements. When this scenario happens, this rebate on exports comes into picture and it helps them to liquidate the unutilized ITC. Let us see a business scenario as an example to understand the impact on this. GST is basically not a cost to company. The entire GST amount that what we are paying on services and materials, that can be taken as a credit. It is only a cash flow impact due to the timing gap between receivables and payables. Let us take a scenario. The values we are assuming at million INR, total purchases, your material as well as service put together 50 million INR. In 50 million INR, intrastate purchases 20 million INR, which is 40% of it, and interstate purchases 30 million INR, which is 60% of it. We are assuming here all these products fall under 18% GST. So for intrastate purchase, 9% CGST gets applied and SGST 9% gets applied. For interstate purchase, directly IGST 18% gets applied. So overall, if you see what is the total eligible GST input credit, is 9 million for 50 million purchase. Okay, so your base cost will be 50 million INR, but overall what we have paid at invoice level is 59 million INR to the suppliers. In turn, suppliers will remit 9 million INR to GST authorities, and wherein we are supposed to take the credit based on the output tax. When we come to sales, okay, we have consumed 50 million INR materials and plus value addition plus margin, the total sales value becomes 70 million INR. When we look at the sales mix, domestic sales is 30 million INR, which is 43%, and export sales is 40 million INR, which is 57%. The GST output tax payable on the domestic sales is 5.4 million INR for 30 million INR domestic sales at 18% rate. GST payable on exports is nil because we are not liable to pay any duty on exports. So here the total output tax is 5.4 million INR. Whereas if you look at our total eligible GST input credit, it is 9 million INR. This 9 million INR already we have paid to the suppliers, and in turn they have deposited our money with the GST authorities. But here our output tax is lower than the input tax credit. So 5.4 million INR will get set off with 9 million INR, and balance unadjusted ITC input tax credit is 3.6 million INR. This cash outflow has already happened to us, and now our cash is blocked. We cannot use this cash because our domestic output tax is lower than the input tax credit. It is primarily because of the sales mix. Our 43% of sales only goes to domestic and 57% goes to exports, where payment of duty is not required for any export sales. Now let us see why this concept is followed. From the GST authorities' point of view, any raw materials, when we buy a raw material, we buy a raw material that any organization, they buy a raw material to produce and sell. Either they will do a manufacturing or they will do a trading. In a manufacturing scenario, when a raw material is procured from a supplier, that raw material either it will be consumed or it will be scrapped. That is the only two options that material can get out of the system. When the raw material comes into the premises, the goods receipt entry will be made and it will be added to the stock. When the stock goes out of stores or warehouse from raw materials, either it should get into the factory for production, that is for consumption purpose, or if it has become a damaged item, or if it has become obsolete, or if shelf life is completed, or if it is a slow moving or non moving item, it can be scrapped. So either it has to be consumed or it has to be scrapped. If the material is getting consumed, in turn that will become a finished goods and that material will be sold. Or while converting the material into finished goods, there may be some process scrap. So if there is a consumption of raw material, then we are permitted to take input tax credit. And during conversion, if there is any process scrap, still input credit facility is available. Input credit cannot be taken only for non-process scraps. Non-process scrap in the sense, we are buying the material, that material becomes obsolete due to design change, or the shelf life of the material gets over, or it becomes rusted or perishable, or we have kept it for a long time, there is no requirement for consumption, no demand for that product, it becomes slow moving, later it becomes non-moving, then at one point in time you have to dispose that material as a scrap. So when you buy the material, you keep it as it is without using that material. If you directly scrap that material as it is, then we are not allowed to take input credit on those materials. input credit can be taken only if the material is consumed, then converted as a finished goods, or during the process of consumption if it comes out as a process scrap. Okay, only in those cases input credit is possible. So in this business scenario, in the previous slide, what we have seen is the entire 50 million INR raw materials are completely consumed, but the input credit was getting adjusted only with the output tax, to the extent of output tax. Okay, what happened to the balance material? Now we are liable to prove to the government authorities that we have consumed these materials and we have exported the finished goods. So in a normal scenario, since there is no GST payment for exports, the linking between input and output will not be there. Now here in this case, the rebate comes into picture, like we need to create a link between this input and the output of goods which has been exported. If we start creating this link, then there is an option to liquidate the unutilized input credit. Now let us see how this rebate or refund works. GST on exports under LUT, that is under letter of undertaking, there is no payment of duty. Without letter of undertaking, that is export of goods with payment of duty, organization can decide whether you need to invoice it under LUT or without LUT. This LUT registration is supposed to be done by all exporters in the GST portal under their registered GST number once in every financial year. But there is no limitation that if you have registered under LUT, you have to follow only LUT. This option, whether you under LUT or without LUT, invoice to invoice, it depends upon the customer. That is, if there is an unutilized input credit, then that particular invoices can be with payment of duty. If they do not have any unutilized credit, then under LUT the goods can be exported. Suppose in a case if a company choose to go under payment of duty to avail this benefit, what we need to do is, once we raise a commercial invoice for exporting the goods, in the remarks column, it is required to mention that these goods, export of these goods are with payment of duty. Along with the IGST value, it has to be specified. Though the invoice will be in foreign currency, in export of goods in most of the cases, okay, in the remarks column, it is very much required to mention that these goods are with payment of duty, and we are supposed to mention what is the IGST value, that is depending upon the product. Under whichever category it falls, we need to calculate the value from the total invoice value and mention it there. Similarly, when it comes to shipping bill, we are supposed to mention the same remark in the shipping bill, that this particular shipping bill is with payment of duty along with the IGST value, and also the invoice reference number is supposed to be added in the shipping bill. These are the basic requirements to export the goods with payment of duty, and these are all very much required to get the refund. If these things are not mentioned, then getting refund is not possible. Now let us see the step-by-step process that is involved in getting this rebate. Who are all involved in this? The key personals are the organization who wanted to get this rebate, then freight forwarder, and the customs agents. Now the first step is invoice generation. So as we discussed earlier, in the invoice, in the remark column, we are supposed to mention these goods are exported with the payment of duty along with IGST value. Then that invoice will be handed over to freight forwarder, and freight forwarder or a clearing agent, they will file a shipping bill in the customs portal. So in the shipping bill, the same details will be specified there, that these goods are exported with the payment of duty along with the IGST value along with the invoice number reference. Then after filing the shipping bill, the customs authorities will verify the invoice details, they will verify the packing list, they will do the physical verification of the material, and then they will allow the material inside the customs port by giving let export order. So the let export order is the basically it is a sanctioning of shipping bill by the customs commissioner. Then once the shipping bill is approved by the customs authorities, that is after getting the let export order, there will be a EGM clearance. EGM clearances, again this will be taken care by freight forwarder or a clearing agent who will identify, okay, if the mode of transport is through sea, then he will identify under which vessel, okay, these goods are loaded. If the mode of transport is by air, then through which flight these materials are getting loaded. Okay, you will have a understanding of that, then you will get that EGM clearance from the freight forwarder. After getting that EGM clearance, then that vessel and flight details, vessel or flight details, it has to be updated in the customs portal. So the organization, they have to collect this EGM clearance details from the freight forwarder, or we should instruct the freight forwarder to directly contact the customs authorities and update these details, like from which port it is getting exported, whether if it is going by vessel, then what is the vessel number, if it is going by flight, then what is the flight number. All those details should be updated in the customs portal. Once these details are updated in the customs portal, then this data will get moved into IceGate. So from there we can start tracking that, okay, from actually how our shipping bill is getting progressed, and if there is any query, then we will get to know that whether it is pending for EGM clearance, or if it doesn't appear in IceGate, then we can understand that there is some process which is missed in place, and then we can start following up with the clearing agents. All refunds are through online transfers. So these refunds are expected within 15 days from the date of filing GST returns. Set-off and department verification. IGST refund set-off. Set-off against ITC as per applicable GST guidelines. Ultimately, 100% amount can be set off. Okay, GST has a guidelines how we need to set off, whether against IGST as first preference, then CGST, SGST. So all those things can be considered, but ultimately department allow you to set off 100% of the amount. There is no loss for you. Then coming to documentation verification process. Company invoice, then shipping bill along with the let export order with the duty payment remarks. GSTR1 should be filed along with the invoice wise details, and it should align with the summary of GSTR3B. Basically, the export details should match invoice wise detail versus the summary what you are updating in 3B. GST returns with the proper submission is a voluntary application for refund claim. GST portal details like invoice, shipping bill, port detail and vessel details will be transferred to IceGate portal. Post verifications, refund will be made through online. So here, now the key thing is, this is a GST refund that we get from customs. So one is, customs is already having the details of the shipping bill, let export order, EGM clearance, everything at their end. At the same time, like, this is not a customs duty wherein like customs will directly pay it to us. This money, this refund has to come through customs but via GST authorities. So what happens here is, the date, the time, it starts from the day you file your GST return. When you file a GST return, generally what we do, by 10th of every month we file the GSTR 1. Then by 20th of every month we file the GSTR 3B. So both the details should match. So when we file the GSTR 1, against every invoice number of export wherein we have done with payment of duty, the details should be recorded, like shipping bill number, port, vessel detail, everything. Once the GSTR return is filed, all these details from GST portal, it will be transferred to IceGate portal. So IceGate portal will have one cross verification with the GST portal details. Then the GST refund amount will be sanctioned. In a normal scenario, from the date of filing GST returns, within 10 to 15 days, the refund amount will be sanctioned and then it will be transferred to the company's account through RTGS or NEFT. Thank you.